Hey, everybody. Brewers had a bad weekend in Atlanta. We'll talk about that. It's one of those series that you just want to maybe throw away. It's one like that, or a few of those every year. We'll talk about that. Brewers go on to Washington. And I threw out Sal Frelick's name as trade bait. And oh my goodness. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. I'm the Locked On Brewers. Great to have you along. I'm Chuck Freeman. Yeah, it was a tough weekend, to say the least, for the Brewers this weekend in Atlanta. I was hoping just don't get swept. The Braves are that good offensively. And the Brewers have dropped 5 of 6 against them this year. And to say, I just wanted them to take at least one game, it sounds like a defeatist attitude. But there's a lot of teams the Brewers are better than. The Atlanta Braves are not one of them. We'll talk about that in the weekend coming up here in a little bit. And Sal Frelick, I threw Sal Frelick's name out there to you guys today about, the Brewers are involved in trade talks allegedly, according to some reports out there, for Eloy Jimenez, the left fielder for the Chicago White Sox. And I threw Frelick's name out there. And you'd think I'd be talking about the next coming of Rod Carew or Wade Boggs. Not saying that's not in the cards, but come on. All right, we'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. First of all, my name is Chuck Freeman, host of Locked On Brewers, first-year host, longtime sports talk show host here in the great state of Wisconsin. I love being with you guys every day, Monday through Friday here on Locked On Brewers. We talk Brewer baseball with you, recap games, look ahead, talk about rumors, talk about things, do interviews. We do that every day, Monday through Friday, right here on Locked On Brewers. You find us on Google, Spotify, Apple, on all those Amazon. We're on all those platforms. Of course, the video version as well. Download us on YouTube. Go to YouTube. Go to Locked On Brewers. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell right there. It's going to alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. And of course, please hit me up on Twitter or X. Is it officially called X now, or is it still just called Twitter? It's like Miller Park. We're always going to call it Miller Park, right? We're always going to call it Miller Park. It's AmFam Field, but we call it Miller Park. It's always going to be Twitter, probably for the next 30 years, or until I thought something else would come along by now, but it hasn't. But Twitter, hit me up on Twitter, Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND. All right, let's get to this. Just was an odd weekend where you see the Brewers score this many runs, hit this many home runs, and have the Atlanta Braves just do a number on your pitching staff. Now, last weekend, when the Braves were in Milwaukee, Brewers pitching was just fine against these guys. So this is a combination of the Brewers pitching just being so great. It was so great. Okay. They had a bad weekend against a darn good lineup. 11 home runs they hit. They've had it 406 for the weekend and scored 29 runs. That is an amazing weekend, my friends. To crown the Atlanta Braves World Series champs, that's not how baseball works. And Christian Yelich says, yeah, we like our shot at them. If the Brewers play the Braves again, it would probably be in the NLCS. So the Brewers would have to go through the wild card. They'd have to go to the divisional series. They would probably play the Dodgers in the divisional series, assuming the Dodgers hang on and get the 2 seed, because the Braves will be the number 1 seed. And then, if the Brewers would get by the wild card, get by the Dodgers, they would probably beat up with the Braves if the Braves advanced out of their divisional playoff series round. So that's when they would see them again. Long way. You got to win the division first. Let's have a winning season, win the division, go to the postseason, and the Brewers are likely headed for that wild card round if they win the division. So, but this weekend, Houser, Colin Rea, even my guy Piamps, he took it on the chin on Sunday. Piamps gave up 2 runs in that 8th inning, broke up a 6-6 tie, and the Braves went on to win 8-6. That 6-run first inning, though, off Teheran on Saturday night, That was probably the most painful to me. I'm a big Julio supporter. I love the fact. I love comeback stories. I really do. And Julio pitched well in his last start, not so well in his previous few starts before that, and then had 6 good ones before that when he first got here. I don't know. Who is the real Julio Teheran right now? I don't know. The 6 runs, the Braves were ready for him. He shut the Braves down real good a week ago Sunday at AmFam Field. He had no answer on Saturday night, and Houser wasn't nothing like he was in his previous start when he struck out 10 over 6 innings. So there you go. Brewers had a rough weekend. What more can we say? I mean, they're not in the Braves league. The Braves offense is so good. And again, in baseball, I don't want to hear anybody say, well, geez, if the Brewers take on the Braves ever in the postseason, Brewers are going to get demolished. And then you haven't been watching baseball. That's a stupid way of thinking. I mean, I don't like using that word, but it is. Because as we know, we've seen teams race through the regular season, win 116 games, only to blow up in the playoffs. So I'm not saying that the Braves can't win the World Series. They're obviously going to be the favorites, but can the Brewers win a 7-game series against them? I don't count anything out in the postseason. You get to the tournament, anything can happen. Okay. Brewers had a little offense going, which they didn't in 2021. The Braves don't win the World Series that year. So yeah, I'm not in baseball, unlike basketball or football, when you could look at things and say, okay, yeah, that's going to happen. Not so much in baseball. And especially with the expansion of the baseball playoffs, it helps those teams that run away with things. It helps the wild card and underdogs so much. Look how many rounds that you got to go through. You do. I mean, even the division winner like the Braves, you got to go through 2 rounds to get to the World Series. So you got to go through 3 rounds to win it all. 4 rounds if you're the Brewers, if you're the 2 seed. So yeah, even though the Brewers dropped all 3 games, okay, there were sometimes, they would score and the Braves would come back and score, Brewers would score, and the Braves would always seem to counter anything the Brewers did all weekend. But I'm not going to let this weekend, I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer and just say, oh, forget about it. If the Brewers do win the division, they're just going to get rolled by the Braves. Again, no, that's not how this works in baseball. I don't know how many times I can say that, but it just isn't. So, yeah, bad weekend. On to Washington. Corbin Burns pitching coming up on Monday night. We'll talk about that coming up here in a little bit. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers. What we're gonna get to next. And gosh, some of you guys are just getting angry at me for wanting to use Sal Frelick as trade bait. Okay, some of the language, guys, watch it there. Okay, come on. We're talking baseball here. All right, we're not talking politics. We're talking baseball. No need to go there for some of you guys out there. We'll get to all this coming up here in a little bit. But yeah, Eloy Jimenez is out there for the taking, apparently, according to the White Sox, the Brewers. According to some reporters, Bruce Levine of the Score in Chicago says that the Brewers are definitely interested, and there's been trade talks between the 2 teams. We're going to talk about that a little bit, because I said, again, I'd be willing to give up Frelick as part of the deal, but some of you are not on board with me. All right, Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day, and FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets, up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20. You'll get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you could spend by betting everything from the money line to over and unders. Who you think is going to hit the first home run? It's all in the app. It's safe, secure. It's super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet MLB than on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com FanDuel.com/lockedon, and you get $200 in bonus bets. That's right. FanDuel.com/lockedon, lockedon, LOCKEDON, Locked On. FanDuel is an official partner of Major League Baseball. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network, Google, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. Download the audio version. We download that overnight. The video portion of this, YouTube, we put this out at night. We try to put this out at night. Your first look at it for you everydayers out there. Those of you who watch us every day or listen to us on the podcast on your way to school, work, or wherever, find us on those platforms. And, of course, go to YouTube. Go to Locked On Brewers and search Brewers. Hit the bell. Search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell. It's going to alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. And the Brewers take on the Washington Nationals in the first of a 3-game set on Monday night. Catch the game on SiriusXM, the SXM app. Search Brewers. You're going to get all 162 of the Brewers baseball right on Sirius and the SXM app when you search Brewers and the Brewers and Washington Nationals on Monday night at a 6:05 start. All right, we'll come back. We'll talk further. That I'd be willing to give up Sal Frelick for Eloy Jimenez. We'll talk further about that and some other trade talk as well. That's next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Your host, Chuck Freeman. Thank you, everybody, joining me tonight. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Okay, now, I put it out there that, God, I would love to have Jimenez. He's under contract through 2026. The White Sox gave him a contract a few years ago that locked him up, like a $43 million contract that locked him up through 2026. And that is great for all buyers out there. And some of you said he's got an injury history. Okay. Are a little concerned, but maybe that's the reason why the White Sox. But I know when I see Jimenez play, he's great. I think he's got an upside. Okay. Got 13 home runs so far in the year. Went through an appendicitis, I want to say, early in the season, like in May. But real good player. Solid. And he's a left fielder. But that doesn't matter. We can make it work in Milwaukee. It doesn't matter what position he plays. We'll find a place for him. So I put out there, I would trade Sal Frelick for him. And to me, there's two guys to me that are untouchable. Jacob Misiorowski, the reliever that throws 100, and Jackson Chourio. Those are the only two. Okay. But anybody else, just remember there shouldn't be any untouchables out there. And I know I like Sal Frelick too. But we tend to fall in love with guys real quick. With our sports teams here in Wisconsin, we tend to do this. Okay, guys, I know we do it. We're all guilty of this. A guy comes up making an instant impact. Oh, geez, don't trade him. And then, I mean, look at you guys on Christian Yelich out there. Some of you guys hated him back in April. All right, now you're pretty quiet on Twitter regarding Yelich. Okay, some of you just really hated him. That same guy hated him, loved him in 2018 and 2019. We're all guilty of it. But with Frelick, yeah, he's had a good week. Okay, he's had a good week. He went 0 for 4 today. But he's not untouchable. Come on. Frelick should not be untouchable. And I'm not Jimenez. If you don't want to trade it for Jimenez, okay, I get that. Okay. But I like the fact that Jimenez is under contract and he's solid. He's a 5-tool player. He's athletic. He's great. I love him. I love everything about Jimenez. Okay. But don't be thinking that Frelick he's untradeable. All right. Let's not go there with him because there's been other prospects, as we know, in Brewer history that we said were untradeable. Oh, don't trade this guy to Miami. Don't trade this guy to Cleveland for CC Sabathia. Don't trade this guy. Don't trade this guy. Before you know it, those guys are in AAA, AA, and they're out of baseball. Not saying Frelick is going that way, but there is no You got a guy like Chourio on, he's number 2, number 3, number 1 prospect, depending on who you want to believe in. That's the guy I don't want to touch. Okay. Mizorowski, I just love the guy. But I suppose you'd have to think about trading him too. I don't want to do that. I wouldn't want to do that. But I don't know if the Brewers are in an all-in mood. Like I said, we'll know. Going out and getting themselves Carlos Santana, who homered, isn't in an all-in mood to me. 2008, when Doug Melvin, and he and I have talked about this a few times, that was all in mood with CC Sabathia. He said we had to break that streak of not making the postseason. We had to break that streak because they had not made the postseason since 1982, and CC got him in 2008. They wouldn't have got there without CC. They traded Matt Laporta. And many of you didn't want to trade Matt Laporta back in 2008. No, don't trade him. Want to go on to the postseason. Yeah, they didn't beat the Phillies. Well, it wasn't because of CC Sabathia. Okay, CC got him there to the postseason. Okay. So don't be coming at me like, well, Frelick is untradeable. No. And I'm going to read some of these right here on X. God, just getting. Let's see. Spencer says, to your point, I do not want them to extend Burns or Woodruff at all. Despite how good they are, I'm done getting burned by that. Well, Woodruff's injury is a little bit of a concern to me, but that's not talking about Jimenez. How about this? Eloy is not worth top 100 talent, says Red. That's a massive overpay for Jimenez. Jordan says he'd rather move Weimer. Well, yeah, I would too. He's hitting about 200. I mean, he's showing some promise, but yeah, I'd move Weimer. Of course I would. You'd be a fool not to. Or Bryce Terang. Those guys aren't up for Rookie of the Year honors. I'm not saying that's the reason why you wouldn't trade somebody, but come on. Frelick is soup du jour, says Andy. Get something for him before he goes bad. Dylan says, last 3 years we needed offense. Eloy has proven that he's hurt a lot, but he's better than the 10 to 30 ranked prospects that are probably won't even sniff a major league roster. 10 to 30 ranked prospects. Yeah, a lot of those 10 to 30, some of those guys won't even make the show. Sam I Am says, I want Eloy, but definitely not moving Frelick or Chourio. Well, the saying, guys, you got to give up something. Chourio says, as in Cheerio the cereal, I mean, one of Weimer, Frelick, or Mitchell is bound to be traded eventually. Yelich is good in left field. Chourio is on his way up. Dylan says Yelich will be gone in 4 years. Dylan says, Chuck, do you honestly think the Brewers will trade for someone like this? Or do they act and talk like this to make the fans feel like they were trying? Matt Arnold's not calling the White Sox to cheer anybody up or make you think that the Brewers are involved in trade talks. He's doing what he has to do to make his team better. He's not doing that to appease anybody. Cyber says the dude, Eloy, he's talking about, simply cannot stay on the field. He's hurt way more than he plays. With the Brewers' track record of injuries, no, will not give up Frelick. Matt says, and what gives you confidence that this team is one Eloy Jimenez away from being a contender? I'm not saying that Eloy's going to put them over the top, but he's an improvement on this team. The Brewers are a contender. A World Series contender? Probably too bad. And we'll see how, just not adding Santana and even Jimenez, other guys on this team have got to pick it up. You just can't add these two and continue to have guys hitting 220 on this team. You know, you got to have others. Obviously, you had Jimenez and you got Santana. And if you're not hitting the ball, and they hit the ball this weekend, if other guys are pulling the weight, yeah, you're not going anywhere. But I'm thinking some of these guys are still going to turn it around. If the GM was so smart, says Dylan, he would. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Frelick, he says, is a 5-2 player. That's Churio, and I'd rather have a GM trying to make moves than sitting on his hands, not doing stuff. You know, Chuck Spencer says, Chuck, he has played 100 games in 2019. You're out of your mind. If we get him, it'll be a lot less for Frelick. Yeah, I saw one White Sox blogger put out there, yeah, Jackson Churio and Tyler Black. I'm like, huh? No, not even Jackson Churio, but Tyler Black on top of it. And not Tyler Black and Frelick. No, I'm not giving up two prospects for at least two of my top prospects. You know, two top 100 prospects for Jimenez. But one of them, anyone not named Mizorowski and Churio, yeah. Jimenez is a special player. Okay, I'm telling you. Guys got stardom written on him. I think he does. And under contract through 2026. And if he blows up, he's great. That means the Brewers are something. Okay? Because he'll be in the heart of the Brewers order. It was great seeing Santana bat in a 3-hole this weekend, wasn't it? Changing the subject. I enjoyed seeing Santana there. We'll talk about the Washington Nationals coming up here in the next 3 days. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on Locked On Brewers. Brewers and Nats are the first of 3 coming up Monday night, 6:10 with that broadcast on SiriusXM, the SXM app. Search Brewers. You're going to get all 162 of Brewers baseball right there on SiriusXM. And thank you, all you everydayers out there. Hey, I know sometimes you might think I throw some crazy stuff out there, like Sal Frelick. I don't think it's all that crazy. Some of you, again, think that are very high on Sal Frelick, but that's your opinion. But that's why we're here talking sports with you, Brewers baseball specifically, Monday through Friday. So thank you, everydayers out there. Let me have it if you want. Call me. Call me. Don't call me. How about let's start with Twitter. Chuck Freeman, Freimund, Freimund. All right, we'll talk about this Nats series and wrap it up next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. I'm your host, Chuck Freeman. Down the stretch we go. And the Brewers will have Corbin Burnes coming up on the hill. He's been good. He gave up 6. He pitched 6 innings, 3 hits, got a loss in his last time out. Okay. Early in the week, he got beat. He got beat in the game, the Brewers, in one of the games, Tuesday, I want to say, against the Reds. Yeah. Because the Brewers came back and won Wednesday. Yeah, he lost. And he, again, 3 hits in 6 innings. I thought he was pretty good. And he's been real good this year. And he said he didn't have his best stuff on Tuesday. But looking forward to him and getting his team back on track against the Washington Nationals. The Nationals, yeah, they're in the bottom. They're in last place. They're not very good. They're 44-62. But just because they're 44-62, as we always say, you can't take them lightly. You can't take them lightly at all. Still a major league team. You're just hoping to go there, take 2 or 3. It'd be great if you swept this 3-game series. Then you just kind of eliminate everything that happened this weekend against Atlanta. You've eliminated all that. You eliminated all that, what happened this weekend. Because the Brewers are now looking up to the Cincinnati Reds. They're half a game behind the Reds. The Cubs got beat today. Gosh. I should have went to FanDuel. I love St. Louis today. And the Cardinals are unloading players as we speak. I love St. Louis today against the Cubs. But no way the Cubs are going to win again. It's just the Cardinals showing some pride in winning a game today. But the Cubs are right there. They're 4 games out. They're 53 and 52. They are 3.5 behind the Brewers, who are half a game behind Cincinnati. Hey, it's going to seesaw back and forth a few times. This is the pennant race. We're getting to August 1st coming up on Tuesday. We got 2 great months of the season ahead, and we got the trading deadline. Anything happens, we'll be talking about it right here on Locked On Brewers. We'll talk to you after the game on Monday night. We'll drop an episode, maybe a trade or two. We'll see. I think the Brewers still need to make another move. Whether it's Jimenez or not, we'll see. Cron gone. I wasn't happy to see him get traded to the Angels. I was hoping he was going to come to Milwaukee. Didn't happen. Let's take 2 or 3 for the Nats and forget about this last weekend. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. So long, everybody.